All right. So good afternoon. My name is Jessica Ray, and I'm working with Cara Silletto, who is our workforce thought leader, speaker, and author. And today's session is from our Staying Power program on management effectiveness. Before we get started, I'll just provide a quick review of our typical housekeeping items, along with information on how to participate in today's session. We will be recording this training session, and all attendees are in listen mode only. However, you can submit questions through your chat area. Just type your question and click send, as we'll have a few minutes at the end to answer any questions. If we don't have any time to respond, we'll certainly follow up with you later. Additional resources can be found on our website at wereduceturnover.com, our YouTube page, and our newsletter. Certainly make sure you sign up for those, and you'll get some valuable generational and retention strategies. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Cara Silletto. Workforce thought leader Cara Silletto is highly sought after keynote speaker and works with organizations to reduce unnecessary turnover by bridging generational gaps and making leaders more effective in their roles. Workforce Magazine named Cara a game changer, and Recruiter.com named her in their top 10 company culture experts to watch. Cara is also the author of the book Staying Power: Why Your Employees Leave and How to Keep Them Longer. With that, I will turn the presentation over to Cara.
There we go.
There you go.
My computer would not let me click the unmute button. Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Jessica. And I'm so excited to get our 2020 webinar series started here. What we've decided to do is to take the magnet strategies from the book Staying Power, and we are going to do a 6-part webinar series this spring, or trying to finish up winter here, I guess, and make sure that we go through each one individually, because these 6 strategies we have figured out, if we focus on these areas of the business, and in particular our effectiveness as individual managers and organizational leaders, if we focus on these 6 areas and improve the ones that have room for improvement, we can absolutely reduce employee turnover. So, as Jessica said, if you haven't already, please put your title in the chat bar here so I can see those coming in. I see a lot of my healthcare friends. I've got a lot of HR folks. So this is fantastic, because I am going to actually tailor the program a little bit today based on who's in the room. Now, we had a lot of other people also register that are going to watch the recording later, so I'll try to keep it general to where it still applies to everyone, but I may give some specific examples for those that I know are on the call today. So let's get started here with the magnet strategy, the MAGNET acronym. So in the book Staying Power, the strategy section at the end talks about these 6 areas, and this is going to be our 6-part series of flash webinars coming up. So today we're going to focus exclusively on management effectiveness. How do we make sure that we have the best managers across our organization? And when I say manager, I really mean anybody who has management oversight of others and who leads other people. So this can be all the way up to not only the CEO, but the owners, the board, anybody that's leading the organization at that level, at a senior or executive level. Also applies to vice presidents and department directors. Of course, middle management, which is huge as far as the influence they have on reducing turnover. So we're going to talk a lot about that kind of middle management level and how important it is to get that right across our whole organization. And then also, even though I use the term manager, I'm including supervisors in that. Even if you have frontline leaders or shift leaders and things like that, they are managers. They are leading other people. And so we have to make sure that they are effective in those roles. So that's what we're really going to focus on today. And then the rest of the magnet strategies, which we will do in follow-up webinars here, is the attraction and recruiting piece, guidance upon entry, which is our onboarding component. We're going to talk about welcoming new hires in a better way. New staffing models will be about scheduling and advancement opportunities for folks, the workloads that people have. We'll really dive into how are we staffing our organization and the responsibilities that need to be done. Then we'll talk about empowered champions of who owns retention and how do we make sure that people understand their piece of the puzzle in this whole big picture of retention strategies. And the last one in the Magnet series and in the Magnet acronym in the book is building trust through transparency. So how do we gain and earn trust and respect from our staff to keep them longer by being more transparent, more candid, more authentic with our people? So this is what our 6-part series is going to cover, and today we will be diving into management effectiveness. So we know that bad management is almost always the real reason that people leave. Now this, of course, this particular quote or statistic came from a 2016 Dale Carnegie leadership study, but we just see it again and again and again. And even if you have employee engagement surveys that say it's other things, that say it's a lack of appreciation or not great communication across the company, any of those things, it really still comes back to the manager that's leading that person. So we want to make sure that managers across the country are better tomorrow than they were today. We have to continue developing our leaders at every level and making sure that managers have the tools that they need to be successful in their job. Unfortunately, so many companies cut training and development, for example. They cut that years ago, and so the managers have been promoted into these positions without the tools to be successful. We've just said, figure it out, or, you know, you were great as a salesperson, so you'll be great as a sales manager, right? Wrong. It's a different skill set. So please make sure that your organization has provided and is continuing to provide those management tools for people to get better every day, every quarter, every year in their leadership roles. Now, why does this matter? What is it that is going to hit the bottom line if we don't make our managers better? Well, if our managers are just allowing people to walk out the door, or sometimes causing people to walk out the door, or have thrown their hands up and said, I don't even know why they're walking out the door. I don't know what to do about it. Whatever the reason is, if that is happening and you're seeing this excessive turnover that I'm seeing at all of our client companies today, we have to understand that that directly impacts the bottom line, which is what the senior leaders really, really care about. So we can't just say, well, I'm just doing the best with what I have, and it doesn't really apply to me, and you know, HR is not giving me great people, so it's not my fault, and whatnot. We really have to take ownership of turnover as a manager and realize that every person that walks out the door is costing our company money, which is not just profitability and something going into somebody's pocket, but it's money that goes toward wage increases we might be able to do, or more incentives we could place out there for our folks, or more bonuses and more pay for me as their manager. Whatever it is, we really need to understand the direct correlation to the bottom line that is impacted by our effectiveness as a manager and leader in the organization. So quickly, let me cover these. We, of course, have other topics, webinars, resources on the cost of turnover. I could talk about this one for days, but what we want to focus on here is that if you have a frontline person on your staff, maybe a lower skilled worker, lower wage worker, or somebody that, is really getting the job done, not in a leadership position, then typically we can calculate easily a $5,000 to $10,000 loss if that person walks out the door. So the volume of turnover in this situation, whether it is the CNAs at a nursing home, whether it's our call representatives in a call center, whether it is technicians or production folks on the line at a manufacturing company, if they walk out the door, we are going to lose money. Not just the money for recruiting and training those people, but also those intangible costs of the learning curve for the next person, the loss of productivity, probably sneaking up on quality issues if you've constantly got new people coming in that might not know how to do the job as well. So easily $5,000 to $10,000 on that. If it's office or management positions, we oftentimes find there's about a $15,000 to $25,000 loss on that. And the more specialized a person is, if you have an engineer or a director of nursing that understands all the regulations and the ins and outs, if you have that type of thing, we're easily able to calculate even more than 15, 20,000. We're easily able to calculate sometimes $50,000 or $100,000 to replace a person if you have to get interim leaders in or consultants or recruiting companies and things like that. So just know that even a small reduction in turnover, say 5%, can we get our turnover from 52% down to 47%? Sorry, I had to do the math in my head there. Can we get just a 5% turnover reduction, or 10% would be even better, but a 5% reduction, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars just by making some tweaks and getting that number down. We just want the trajectory to go in the right direction of being able to keep our people longer. That's where we're headed. So we don't want to keep losing more and more people, which is costing our companies tons and tons of money, okay? So first things first, I'm going to give you some company-wide strategies that we need to think about as an organization, and then we'll get into some management strategies that every single individual manager can implement immediately, okay? So first things first, do your managers and supervisors have training? Do they have the proper training? It's not just about technical skills here. You can't just stop at technical skills. Oh, well, they know how to do their job. They know the quality pieces. They know the OSHA requirements, things like that. We've got to get them up the chain here, build more self-awareness so they know who they are and how others are different from them. Of course, tons of communication training around conflict resolution, the generational conversation. All kinds of communication classes should be happening within your organization, or as managers, you should be seeking that out. Even if it's online, YouTube videos, TED Talks, things like that. Continue to learn how to be a better communicator. And then ultimately, we really want to provide leadership development to folks. So whether you're in a boot camp program like the one that we teach for middle management, or you're just continuing to do leadership development through different classes, different tools, different resources, we have to make sure that our managers and supervisors are given these tools so they can become better at both the technical side of their job and those, they call them soft skills, but they're not soft skills. They're essential skills. It is the people side of the job that we have to make sure they have those tools for. So another tool for that is some kind of assessment or tool that helps your managers understand different styles. Now, we happen to use the DISC style assessment, which explains whether someone is more dominant or less dominant. The DISC, of course, you can see here, is based on dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. And that tells us whether someone is very structured and organized and formal as a high C versus they're more of a wing it kind of person. And I'll just figure it out as I go. And I don't need a spreadsheet for that. I got it all up here, right? That's going to be your low C. And once managers understand these differences and the manager and their team is given tools like this, you see their communication effectiveness increase exponentially because they can shift their style a little bit and they have less miscommunication because, well, I just thought you saw it the way I saw it, or I thought I could communicate in bullet points to you, which is how I like to be communicated with, and they haven't adjusted their style to someone who might communicate in a different way. So make sure you've got tools and tips and tricks and resources and everything for your managers. What I find with the assessments is that any manager over, I'm going to say age 50, give or take, any manager over 50 is like, oh yeah, DISC, Myers-Briggs, predictive index, I've done them all. I know all that stuff. I've done strengths finders. I know that I'm a blue goat and I like cheese. I don't know. Whatever the assessments are, they've done it all. But then I say, well, of course they did. It was really popular in the 90s and early 2000s. But what about all the people you've promoted in the last 10 years? Most companies cut that training and development years ago, and they have not yet reinstated these programs and these tools for all the managers that are, under 40, under 45. So please make sure or beg for these tools within the organization so that you can become a better manager, and we can do that across the whole organization. All right. So as a manager, sometimes people in our workshops will say, well, Cara, I have no control over compensation and pay. I have no control over schedules, which my people complain about all the time. I really just can't do anything about this. It's out of my control. Well, I'm going to say baloney on that, because we as managers have a lot of control in really dictating the culture of our team. Even if you can't control the whole culture of the organization, you can really have an impact on your team and your folks. And the number one thing that you need to do is really get to know your people, because if we understand our employees and especially the evolving expectations of our staff now, which has changed dramatically over the last several years, if we understand their expectations, then we can create a place where people want to work. We can be the manager that people want to work for, okay? So you have a lot more in your control than you might think, even though there's some things the organization might have to change, policies and scheduling and comp. We as managers have a lot of control in whether our people stay or go. First things first, understand the millennial mindset. Now, the generational conversation these days, it's not about birth year, it's about how people were raised. So some people are very millennial like me. I happen to be one of the oldest millennials, and I am very entitled. So I am a typical millennial, but I was raised in a certain way with drive-thrus and, on-demand things that I got to choose. I got a say as a child. That's very different than how my parents were raised. So then you've also got old soul millennials and Gen Z folks who are much more traditional in their thinking. It's like they're a baby boomer trapped in a millennial body or a Gen Z body, okay? So we can't just judge people based on their birth year. That's why we focus on the mindset. So what is the mindset of your workers, and do they really understand, do your managers understand those workers of all different generational mindsets? Okay, now this little booklet, The Millennial Mindset, it's a small little pocket-sized guide. That's available for free on our website. So if you don't have a copy of that, we'll send you the digital copy. We'll mail you the physical copy. Just go to wereduceturnover.com, and over on the right, you'll see this little purple book sticking over on the side. You just put your address in there, and we will ship that out to you. So make sure to do that. If you want bundles of those books to give to all your managers, they're available on Amazon in bundles of 10. So some groups like to just distribute those to all the management. So please make sure that your managers at all levels, especially the senior leaders, that they really understand the different expectations that these younger workers have today, okay? So that's first things first. Then across our whole team, do we really know our people? Do we understand what's going on in their lives that's different than our lives? Do we understand their family situation? Are they dealing with a bedwetter in the morning? Are they carrying a second job that they're trying to balance all of these schedules and things? What do they really care about? Do they really need to be at yoga at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Is that really important to their whole well-being and their whole self? Because that matters to today's workforce, whether they have children or not, or hobbies. Get to know your people. Find out what's keeping them up at night. What is it that they struggle with? What stresses them out? How can you help the whole person? How can you mentor your people? I love to mentor my folks if they need financial support. Just they've never had a financial advisor maybe, and they really are scared of what does that conversation look like, or how do I find one? I will talk to my staff, even though I'm not their financial advisor, but I'm their manager. And if that's stressing them out, they know they need to be saving for retirement, but they don't know how to do it. And what's the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA, or whatever those questions are? I'm going to help my staff make sure they sleep better at night and that their personal priorities are also met, because it makes them a better worker when they come to work the next day. They're not stressed about as much of the personal side if I can support them as a whole 24/7 human being, okay? It also helps build a lot of that trust and respect that we'll talk about in one of our future webinars. Remember, one size doesn't fit all. So make sure that you're not just treating every person the same way because I have to be fair. That's not the world today. Today, we have to be situational leaders where we adjust and accommodate and shift as we can, okay, as needed for that. Now, with that said, I always get pushback in my workshops and programs at that point with, oh, no, Cara, no, I have to just be consistent because someone will take advantage and somebody always pushes the envelope, and if I give an inch, they take a mile, blah, 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 right? All this pushback. I'm sure somebody on this webinar right now has crossed their arms and rolled their eyes and said, yeah, right, I'm not adjusting to all these people. Well, let me let you in on a little secret here. Some people just suck, okay? Some people are going to take advantage. They are going to just squeeze you for everything you will give to them, and they're going to want to be the exception to every rule. That is not who we are trying to attract and retain. We want good workers, okay? But we have to first create a place where they want to come back tomorrow. We have to be that leader that they want to work for if we want to be able to attract and keep the good workers. So please do not throw all these strategies out the window thinking, well, Cara, that's just not going to work because none of my people want to work. Or, well, if I do those things, then they take advantage of me. No, we need to be more genuine, more authentic with our relationships with our staff, and then separate from the people that try to take advantage and do things that are not appropriate for what we want our culture to be, if they're toxic or, negative and things like that. So just know, some people just suck, and that's not who we're trying to attract and retain, okay? So what's the goal? The goal is to slow the revolving door. We can't stop it. So as a manager, think about this, okay? How can I extend the tenure of every new hire that I have? How can I get to know them better and manage them better and communicate better so that people will stay a little bit longer, okay? That's what we want to do. And if anybody in upper management or on your board says, we need to stop this revolving door, I want you to clarify to them that stopping the revolving door is not a realistic expectation moving forward, and instead, we need to work with our managers to slow the revolving door and keep each person a little bit longer, okay? Now, what that means is we have to balance the people and profit side. You're going to have senior leaders, especially, or your board, that are hyper-focused on the bottom line. They are hyper-focused on productivity and profitability and efficiency and those kind of things. And yet you, as the manager or the HR person, you are probably right up front seeing the people. You know, we don't want to make business decisions by managing behind a spreadsheet. We have to get out from behind our desks and go talk to our people. We have to understand our people and realize that our workforce has evolved. So what worked very beautifully years ago may not work any longer, okay? And that's okay. We're going to have to make some adjustments. We don't have to bend over backwards for everybody and do exactly what they want, but we have to find some new middle ground here. So make sure you're not pulling too much for people and not thinking about the bottom line and the organization itself, but also you don't want to think too much about the bottom line and forget about the people here, all right? So we have to balance our efforts and our initiatives and our focus on both the people and the profit. Even if you're a nonprofit organization, you still have to care about the bottom line because we have to make enough money to stay in business. So I'm not just talking about profit here that somebody keeps or, you know, goes to bonuses and whatnot, but just making sure the organization is financially stable at the same time as we take care of our people. All right. So I want you to grab a pen and whatever paper is in front of you, you just need about a 1-inch square here somewhere. Find a little scrap piece of paper. Grab a pen. I want you to do this. I'll wait while everyone grabs a pen. Okay, you got a little bitty scrap piece of paper somewhere, or you can write somewhere. I want you to follow this instruction. I'm going to put some words up on the screen here, and I want you to follow this suggestion. Ready? Okay, you have your instruction. You can see it? All right, so I want you to just take 20 seconds here, follow this instruction. All right, now, I'm curious how many of you did what I was asking. When we do these types of activities in our workshops, it's amazing to me how people see so clearly, oh, yes, absolutely. She wants me to draw a bow tie. Or someone else sitting next to them says, oh, yeah, absolutely, I got this. I drew a bow and arrow. Okay? Someone else maybe drew a gift bow that was on top of a package for Christmas or a holiday. Okay? But what I was actually asking you to do was to draw a bow. I wanted you to draw someone bowing to another person as if the other person is curtsying back, right? Well, I wasn't quite as clear as I thought I was I? No, it was very unclear that I gave it to you. It's in black and white right here. I gave you the instructions, and yet you all took it in very different directions, which is so frustrating when an employee does what you tell them to do, and yet they're told, well, you did that all wrong, right? We don't want to be told that. We need to get clear expectations. So one of the tips and tricks that you can do immediately and be a better leader, better manager of your people is to more clearly communicate your expectations. Now, if you have ever seen one of my live keynotes at a conference or a talk, you probably know this story of my first job. At my first job, nobody told me that I had to keep my shoes on all day. All right. So I had to keep them on all day, but I didn't do that. About 3 o'clock, I would kick off my cute high heels and I'd walk to the copier barefoot because we were a small office. It was carpeted. There were just about 10 people there and I knew them all pretty well. So I didn't think it was a big deal, but it wasn't covered in the handbook. It was not in orientation at all. And so I didn't know I was missing the boat. Now, there were a few people at the office that did not like that I took my shoes off. They thought it was inappropriate and immature, unprofessional. They called me all kinds of names, but not to my face. They told everybody else how inappropriate my action was. So until a kind older peer of mine came to me and said, hey, Cara, you're doing great work. And I'm pretty sure that if you kept your shoes on all day, people would notice the good work you're doing instead of your bare feet. So that was a huge eye-opening opportunity for me, a great mentoring opportunity that I was given. And I was devastated when I got the news to find out people were talking about me and I was being judged like that. But then I realized, wow, okay, I just didn't know what the expectations were. And of course, as soon as she told me the expectations, what did I do? I changed my behavior and I started wearing my shoes all day. So we as managers need to be clear. We have to be crystal clear. We have to be more clear than we've ever been before. You can't just say, wear black pants with your uniform shirt. You have to say, not leggings. You have to be very clear. In fact, some of my clients have visual attire policies because they're saying these are leggings, these are tights, these are pants, you know, and it sounds silly. Some of you are probably laughing like, I shouldn't have to clarify that. But in today's world, there's a very fine line between yoga pants and leggings and, you know, all of that stuff. So your definition might vary from somebody else's. So just be more clear in your expectations and you will be a better manager overnight. Absolutely true. Okay. Also, appreciate a job well done. We oftentimes wait until people go above and beyond or the extra mile to say thank you for things. But today, with most of our clients, they have folks who don't show up. They have folks who show up, but they don't do their job while they're there. And so if we really dig down deep, we can find the gratitude. We can find that appreciation deep down inside of us for the people who show up and do their job. So all I'm asking is that you recognize that you notice that. You don't have to give them gift cards and prizes and bonuses for showing up, but if you do have punctuality problems or attendance problems, recognize the people that are dependable. Thank them for being so dependable. And that's all you have to do is say thank you. Just recognize and appreciate it. Notice that they showed up on time and say that to them. Hey, man, I've noticed you've been showing up on time every day this week. I really appreciate that. It helps things run so much smoother around here. Okay, so please make sure that you and other supervisors and managers on your team are turning up that appreciation dial to be sure that people know they are appreciated. Sometimes you appreciate them, but they feel underappreciated because they just don't know that you're thinking that in your head. They need to hear it, all right? So another really quick communication strategy that can help you immediately is to learn to cascade important information. And what that means is whenever you are finished with a phone call or a meeting or you get an important email, for example, I want you to get in the habit of thinking cascade, okay? What that means is who needs to know what just happened? All right, were decisions made? Were policies changed? Was important information exchanged that's going to impact people? And not just maybe who wasn't in the meeting, like, oh, Susie's out sick today, so we need to make sure to update Susie. No, there's more people than just the people on that committee or in that meeting that need to be updated. We all hate to be the last one to know something. And I'll tell you right now, it frustrates your staff when they are doing something and then they find out, oh, we changed that procedure a couple weeks ago, or we changed that policy last week. You don't have to do that anymore, right? And they get so frustrated, like, why didn't anybody tell me? Now, I will say sometimes the company is like, hello, we put out notices and we told everybody, but you as the manager of your team need to check in and make sure that people got the message. not just literally received the email or received the notice, but that they got it, that they understood it, that they know that that's a change that's going to impact them moving forward. So make sure to cascade information down to your team more often, and they will feel more in the know. They'll trust you more. You'll have a better communicative relationship in both ways with them. And so this cascading strategy is really, really powerful. What I did when I wanted to learn to do this and kind of rewire my brain to do this, I put the word cascade on Post-it notes everywhere. So on my laptop, on my phone, you know, on my computer desktop, I put the word cascade so I would get in the habit of doing that more often. All right? So here's the deal. Management is harder today than it has ever been. I truly believe that, because I just told you, one size doesn't fit all. Your workforce has evolved. Now you need to thank people for showing up, you know, things like that. I mean, we didn't have to deal with that stuff in the past. Before it was because I said so. And that worked just fine because of the leadership model that we had back then. But today we are in an employees market because everyone is hiring. Your staff can leave tomorrow and go find a new opportunity, probably at the same or better pay and you know, schedule and everything else. It's part of the package. So because everybody's hiring, we have to create a place where they want to work, and we have to be a boss that they want to work for. So I get it that management's hard, but don't give up. Okay, don't give up. We do have to build in some more time to be a manager. So please fight for your workload. What I mean by that is if the company just keeps putting more on your plate, we have to start saying, look, I'm happy to take on this project. What do you want to come off of my plate so I can make room for that? Because if we keep overloading our plates with tasks and projects and deliverables where we are responsible for producing things, then we don't have time to manage our people. And we have to have relationships with our people. We have to have time to communicate with them. So I want you to guard and protect your plate as best you can to make sure that you are keeping a manageable workload. Otherwise, if you let your plate become overloaded, you're going to see the people just churn in and out of your department because you don't have time for them. You don't have time to manage them. So we really need to relook at those workloads and fight to protect our plate and our management time. Now, hopefully, too, after this session, and if you've read the book Staying Power, if you read our blog, you follow our YouTube, you know, if you stay in touch with us, if you're on our newsletter list to get our monthly videos and updates on this stuff, if you have those things, you now have more tools. You have to keep adding tools to your tool belt and your toolbox because this is not going to stop. It's not like, well, I took some classes, now I'm good. We have to continue to evolve, continue to listen, continue to adapt in order to keep the next workforce we're going to have and next year's workforce and the workforce after that. All right? So I encourage you to take these tools and put them to use, okay? Whether you call it Fix It Friday or Workforce Wednesday or Turnover Tuesday, whatever day you want to pick, schedule a block of time that's recurring on your calendar. I want you to do this right now. Either put it on a Post-it note, you're going to do this as soon as the webinar is over, or just go put it on your calendar right now while you're on your computer. I want you to put a block of time, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you can give up, you know, whatever you can make work. Put it on your calendar every single week that you are going to start implementing some of these things. You're going to think about, how can I be a better manager? How can I create a better team to work on, a better place to work? How can I make better onboarding? You know, the new hires need a great experience coming in. So how do I make that better for them, which we'll talk about in one of our future webinars. But all these things that I'm going to teach you and we're going to talk about, you've got to have time to think about it and implement it. So schedule those blocks of time, and again, guard that time and say, I've got to make a better place to work. I've got to work on being a better boss for my people. So I'm going to make Fix It Fridays or Turnover Tuesday or whatever it is. Schedule that time on a regular basis, okay? So I do have some good news for you. Your staff don't want to quit. They want this to be the best place they've ever worked. They want you to be the best manager they've ever had. And you know what else they want? They want to be able to brag to their friends, na, 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 I love my boss. Because so many people don't love their bosses. So many people don't love their jobs and the company that they work for. You can be that person. You could be the person that your staff totally brag to their friends about loving their boss and wanting to go to work the next day. And then that in turn will start recruiting people because they tell their friends. And I've had people who literally on my staff, their friends have been saying for years, when Cara's hiring again, please let me know. I'd love to have a job like yours because my staff love our team. We've built a great team and we've built a great place to work. We've built in flexibility and understanding and trust and all of these things. And I'm telling you, it works. It absolutely works. That will then not only keep the people that you want to keep, but help you recruit better people as you grow as a company. All right. So the magnet strategies, again, this is what we're going to be talking about on this webinar series. Today, we dove deep into management effectiveness. And the next 5 webinars, we're going to cover attraction and recruiting, guidance upon entry, which is the onboarding piece, new staffing models. We'll talk about workloads and schedules and advancement opportunities when there's no promotion available. Empowered champions, making sure everybody is a retention champion, and building trust through transparency. So building that more genuine relationship with your folks. So now we've got a few minutes for questions. Jessica's back to help me monitor and moderate all these questions. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box if you haven't already, and we'll try to get to as many of these as we can. So I'll send it over to you, Jess.
Yeah, great. This one came through, which I think is really important. It says, I'm in HR and I know we need more training for our management. How can we convince our executives that this is a must and they need to take this seriously?
Oh, okay, great question. So if you are a manager or you're in HR or wherever you are, you feel like it's the upper level management that won't put this in place or they won't give you the tools that you need, we've got to go back to the cost. You've got to go back to that real impact on the bottom line and explain to the senior leaders. We have to not only say, we need more training and just pound our fists of give me more training, but tie that to what the results are going to be. And also give them a solution. Tell them not just we need more training, but do your homework and tell them we need the workforce retention boot camp that Cara teaches, or we need the DISC assessments for our people because they don't understand their own style, let alone other people's style, or we need this training class that I found online or wherever from your own consultants within your industry or whatever tools it is. Make sure that those are well vetted, that they get good results. They're not just a one-time we come in for half a day and then you'll never see us again. That's not going to get the results they want. In fact, a lot of your senior leaders, I'll tell you right now, they have paid so many trainers to come in and to do like a one-day program, and they didn't get results. Even though people loved that one day of training, they didn't get the actual results of whatever that training promised because nobody did anything. We all go back to the way we've always done it after the training because that's what's easiest. And let's face it, we're all busy. I don't have time to change. I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing because I know how to do it and it's fast, right? So make sure that you find training programs and tools that will get actual results and take those ideas, those details, and the results, whether there's a case study or a white paper or your estimates on, if you give my team this kind of training or this kind of tool, I think we can reduce turnover by 10% this year or in the next 6 months. Give them actual numbers and get really comfortable with that. We do have a cost of turnover worksheet that we'd be happy to send out to you. So just send in a message to anybody on my team. I'm Cara at crescendostrategies.com or Jess at crescendostrategies.com. Just send in those messages. Visit wereduceturnover.com. You can find all of our email addresses there. And Jess actually just put our information, phone numbers, emails, all that. So if you need any of these digital resources, cost of turnover, we also have, if you have a specific question like that, send that in to us, and we have some blogs. We have an article series that you can pass around to your management or your leadership. We have those types of things that make the case. It makes the case for spending the money up front on better management training instead of just watching the dollars walk out the door with turnover, right? So we can help you make that case, and our team is happy to talk through that with you and really help us help you get this through to the senior leaders or the decision makers or the purse holders, whatever is stopping you from doing that. So excellent. Yeah, if you put, you'd like the cost of turnover worksheet in the chat bar too, we can send that out to you. So we'll actually send it out. Now that I'm thinking about it, on that one too, we can send that out in the post-event message. We'll be sure that you all get that. But we're constantly coming up with new tips and worksheets and tools and things like that. So make sure to stay in touch with us, because you'll just continue to get those tools and that ammo, as we call it. So, all right. Any other questions, Jess?
Yes, we've got one coming through here. It says, so essentially, this individual's got two really high-performing employees that unfortunately are kind of poisoning the well with negativity. They've both been given raises for their performance and had their attitudes discussed. Any additional advice or perspective?
Oh, this is so tough because we depend on those high performers, but I have to be honest with you. We're never going to get the culture that we want to have and the team that we want to have if we allow that stuff to happen. Okay, if we continue to allow that to happen and we kind of sweep their negativity or their bad attitude or behavior under the rug because, well, but she shows up every day, but she's a top performer, but she, does the best on that team. The problem is, how good do you think the new hires could be if they weren't chased away by this negative attitude or by this poor behavior on the team and those types of things? So if you are able to recruit the rest of the team, and let's say you only need these two top performers and you're good, then that's fine. Then just deal with their bad attitude and try to coach them as best you can. But if you have to build a team of people who work together, who get along, then you have to separate those people. We have to quarantine those people away from the new hires and keep them away. Don't let them do any training. Don't let them do any mentoring. Do not let them poison the well, as Jess said. Don't let them have access to these people. If you can't do that, I'm going to tell you, you have to separate from them completely. If they are not coachable, if you have given them the tools, you've given them the feedback, you have possibly given them coaches, you've invested in them to learn, but if they will not change or they are not coachable, you are actually losing tens of thousands of dollars of not only turnover costs, but potential productivity, potential sales, whatever it is, that if they're the top performers, you're losing future top performers and you're losing your sustainability as a productive and successful organization if you let that stuff happen. So we cannot allow that to happen any longer. Now, back in the day, during the recession, when it was easy to get and keep people, we just allowed that. We put up with it, whatever. Oh, hey, don't say things like that again. Ha, 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 right? We just let it go. But today, it's an employees market, and all those new hires who come in and see that, they're going to say, I am not working with these people, so I'm gone. You have to look at the bigger picture and how are you going to create a place where people want to work. Sometimes we have to make a very difficult decision in order to get to where we ultimately want to be in the end. It's a short-term pain. You're going to feel it. It's painful, but you'll have the long-term gain of getting where you need to be if we take care of those issues now instead of a year from now or later than that. Okay? Excellent question. Absolutely. All right. Any more questions, Jess?
That's all we've got that's come in so far. So excellent job. And thank you all so much for joining us today. You can certainly order Cara's book on Amazon, the Staying Power book, or if you want bulk pricing, we also do bulk pricing if you're looking to give that product to your managers to start a book club. Is what some of our clients have done as well. Certainly join our newsletter list on wereduceturnover.com. That's in the chat box to receive that valuable ongoing resource. Our YouTube channel is packed full of videos that you can send around the office as well, and Cara frequently posts on LinkedIn to get those retention tips. And thank you all again for joining us.
Yes. Real quick, somebody asked when the next webinar will be.
Oh, yes.
And my travel schedule is crazy. So what we're doing this spring is we're just going to pop these up as flash webinars every few weeks. So whenever my schedule allows, I'm going to pop in and do another one of these magnet strategies over the next few months. So watch your email, watch my social media, make sure you're on my LinkedIn. We're posting it there, and we will record each one of these. So if by chance it doesn't work for your schedule when it pops up, make sure you're on the list. Go ahead and register so you'll get the recording of that next session. So thank you all so much. Have a great week and work to keep your people. Good luck. Bye-bye.